One of my favorite things to do as a detective is break open cases as they happen. This can also apply to the world of fabric data warehouses. The mystery then becomes, how can we actively track activities and analyze queries? Welcome, detectives. My name is Jason Richards, Microsoft Technical Trainer and Data Detective. We'll discuss the Detective Toolkit for monitoring your fabric data warehouse. This includes tools outside of Fabric as well as in the data warehouse itself. Get your investigative mindset and let's unlock the case of the mysterious monitoring. When your organization uses Microsoft Fabric, the license used to purchase the service determines the capacity available. A capacity is a pool of resources that you can use to implement Fabric capabilities. The cost of using Fabric is based on capacity units, or CUs. Each action you perform in a Fabric resource can consume CUs for which your organizations then build. It's therefore important to be able to monitor capacity usage to plan and manage costs. In data warehouse workloads, CUs are consumed by data read and write activities. So queries in your data warehouse and the underlying file operations to OneLake storage are a significant factor in the cost of your Fabric Analytics solution. The Microsoft Fabric Capacity Metrics app is an application that an administrator can install in a Fabric environment and use to monitor capacity utilization for the entire capacity. To monitor utilization related to data warehousing, you can filter the interface to show only warehouse activity. By using the Fabric Capacity Metrics app, you can observe capacity utilization trends to determine what processes are consuming CUs in your Fabric environment and whether any throttling is occurring, which indicates that your processes require more capacity than is available within the constraints of your purchased license. With this information, you can optimize your capacity license for your needs. Now, let's crack open our warehouse and see what tools we have to investigate. You can use Dynamic Management Views, or DMVs, to retrieve information about the current state of the data warehouse. Microsoft Fabric data warehouses include these popular DMVs. The exec connections returns information about data warehouse connections. Exec sessions returns information about authenticated sessions. And exec requests returns information about active requests. In this example, we're performing a few investigative techniques to track down a formidable opponent, the long-running query. First, we're pulling relative attributes in from the exec requests to identify any long-running queries. Now that we've tracked down the query, we can extend our investigation to discover the user that executed queries. I predict a stern email in this user's future. And if you're an admin, you can even use the kill command to terminate any identified long-running queries to save the day. Concurrency issues, throttling, and costs, that's superhero-level detective work. Dynamic management views are great for monitoring performance in so many more areas than just query performance. Sometimes it can get complex in joining this DMV with that DMV to get query insights. So can we simplify this? Would I bring it up if we couldn't? Microsoft Fabric data warehouses include a Query Insights feature that provides a historical, aggregated information about the queries that have been run, enabling you to identify frequently used or long-running queries, and helps you analyze and tune query performance. Query Insights are provided through the following views. You got the Query Insights Exec Request History, which provides details of completed SQL queries. The Query Insights Long-Running Queries provides details of query execution time. And the Query Insights Frequently Run Queries provides details of frequently run queries. Let's tie this to another case to solve, and we'll call this one Querying Queries. We've been asked to track down recent queries within our warehouse and identify patterns of bad behavior. To help us solve this case, we can use Query Insights. In the first part of the query shown, we use the Query Insights Exec Request History view to identify queries that were run in the previous hour. Now, keep in mind that depending on the concurrent workloads, queries may take up to 15 minutes to be reflected in the Query Insights views. Next, we can get details of long-running queries that have been run more than once from the Query Insights Long-Running Queries view. This query identifies long-running SQL commands that have been used more than once and returns them in descending order of their median time to complete. This will help us identify repeat offenders. We can then use the Query Insights Frequently Run Queries view to return details of successful and failed runs for frequently run commands. Then we can correlate any long-running repeat offenders with failed queries. Now that we've identified different levels of bad actors, we can act and save the day. Time once again to fire up the DetectoLab 5000 and apply these concepts to our environment. Let's dive in. All right, back in the environment, we're going to cover monitoring. So what are we going to cover first? Let's talk about the Fabric's Capacity Metrics app. And it's an application, right? So we need to go into apps in order to get it. So if I go into more options, I can take a look at my apps here. Now I already have it installed in my workspace because I needed to test it out. But if you don't have it, then you can always go into Get Apps, which opens up AppSource. By the way, AppSource has a lot of different pre-built applications that you can use. But you can see the Fabric Capacity Metrics app is right here. So I can go ahead and install it in my workspace. One of the things that you need in your capacity application is, let me just show you in the settings here for the semantic model, is that you're going to need data source credentials. And that's your capacity ID. Where do you get your capacity ID? Well, if I go back into my admin portal here and I look at my capacity settings and I look at my different capacities that I have, like in my trial one here, I have this one. Then I can go to my settings and get it. I'm not going to do it because that's going to expose an ID that I don't want to expose, but you can go into your settings and get that. Copy it, and then you can come back into the app once you've opened it up and then paste it. So now I'm going to open up the report. Now I could open up the app, right? But I'm just going to open up the report now so that you can see this. So what I got here is, first of all, you want to make sure that you got the right capacity selected. This works for any capacity that's associated within your tenant. So I have a Power BI embedded tenant or Power BI embedded capacity, and then I have this trial capacity. So I have that brought up right now. You can see that it contains a compute and a storage options. So I can see my CU utilization, my capacity units, which are my billable units. I can see things like my duration, my operations, what users are doing what in here, and then what's happened within the last bit of time. I can also see my utilization over a certain period of time, you know, what's been doing what, my data sets, my Synapse notebook operations, any warehouse operations, so on and so forth. And then I can see if there was any throttling that took place, any overages that might have happened, so on and so forth there in the compute. And in the storage, I can go in here and take a look at what my billable storage amount is in my OneLake, what my current storage is in there, how many workspaces are being applied to this. So I can get a sense of what everything's kind of costing me in this perspective. So this is a great monitoring tool. Yeah, you can see that it takes a while to update the visuals in this. It's got to pull the data in and perform any query operations that it's doing in the back end. So it's a little slow in generating it, but you can see that from a billable perspective, I can monitor that. So this, from my capacity, is great for me to go in and kind of monitor that aspect of it. What about my warehouse? Let's go into my worldwide importers warehouse, and we'll run through some of those DMV and query insight options that were in here. So that's loading up a table right now. But one thing I did want to show you is that there are views in here. I have system views, but you can also see this query insights. Now, I don't know what's up with the UI right now. This doesn't hold very long. Like as soon as the warehouse updates, it goes away. But if I look at the views here, I can run views for executive requests and frequently run queries and long running queries straight from here. I don't need to run specific SQL queries in order to do this. These are views that are predefined in the warehouse themselves. So I can run these, and just to show you, these are all the columns that get created, and I can pull out what information I need, perform join operations on exec requests, frequently running queries, and long running queries. You can see that this is query insights. Now I'm going to run those manually because I don't need to pull all of these columns in there, but wanted to show you that that's in there. Also in my system views, there's a lot of, DM exec requests and things like that that I can pull in out of here as well. So you could utilize system views and my query insight views to pull certain information out if I wanted to, but I want to pull specific information out. In order to do that, I'm going to run SQL queries. So let's run this SQL query here. This will insert all this in, right? And I'm just going to run these one at a time. So I can just highlight one of these and just run it just to get this one query executed. And I want to take a look. Now, I had just created this warehouse, so obviously there isn't too many query requests that have gone through in the last hour, no, it says where it was running. So I haven't run too many queries, but this was a pretty long running query, session 132. So maybe what I want to do is I want to check this. Yes. So I want to check this. Boy, that takes a while to. It's easier to do it that way, right? So I want to look at session ID 132 specifically and see what happened with that. So now I can find an action. So if I have some, I don't know why it used one for one and one for another, but let's see. That was it. Yes. It didn't even give me a login name. So I know it was me, but what I can do then is I can look and see who the actual login or the username of the login that has long running queries in there. And if I am an admin, which I am, I can kill that query from running if it's still continuously running, which obviously would save compute operations from taking place. I don't want, this could be a reason that my compute utilization so high is that I got a query that's just continuously running in the back end and I don't want it to run anymore. So also there might be some concurrency issues that might be going on. If people are getting put in waits and it's because of a long running query that somebody executed, I can go ahead and kill that from an admin session, right? So we'll rename this, and these are DMV queries, or we'll just call it long running queries, right? And then we'll just close out of this one and open up a new one. Because I also want to show query insights. So query insights is the other one that we can use. Right, so here's the ones that we have. And this is pulled directly from the content. So what we're doing here is we're pulling in start time. I got my login name, and I got the actual command that was used to, or the SQL query that was used to perform that operation. So this is good information, right? I can see when the start time was, who did it. It's all me. and then obviously the command that took place here. I can also see how long it took, right? So here it's giving me long-running queries. Let's see, long-running queries for something that had greater than one run. And obviously these copy intos are going to be long-running queries, right? Because I'm copying data from a fact table here, which had, if you remember, 50 million examples or whatever that it pulled into the rows for that. So that was a big one, right? So I can see how many runs it took. It went through 2 runs. Median elapsed time was 69,500 milliseconds. And then it tells me when I last ran this. So this is also good information. Obviously, there's going to be hundreds of queries that are probably being run on this warehouse at any given moment. You'll be able to see those. And then finally, I can see frequently running queries. Go ahead and execute this. Again, it's showing me the last run command. And what other information did it pull in here? The number of runs, number of successful runs, and the number of failed runs. So I can get a lot of information out of these DMVs, meaning that I can, the dynamic management views and these query insight views, to track down bad actors, use our investigative techniques to resolve long-running queries, and find queries that, you know, are getting executed a lot, and maybe dive deeper into what's happening with that. Obviously, since this information is being collected and stored in tables for us, I can even add that to my own analytics reports in Power BI and trace these in near real time. Also, like create dashboards in order to monitor this stuff and create alerts on it. So I can set up automated processes, take it a step further. So obviously, monitoring is a big key part of making sure that our warehouses are running optimally, and great stuff to have and to implement. So back to the studio. Great work, detectives. You learned how to use various tools and techniques to monitor your Fabric data warehouse, like Capacity Metrics app, Dynamic Management Views, and Query Insights. Thanks for joining.